So, J. Ruud, what lovable book are we talking about today?
Well, Stacey Margaret Jones, I'll give you a hint. A Family Curse.
I'll need another hint.
All right, you will get one.
Welcome to Between the Covers, the book podcast in which my husband, author J. Ruud, shares one novel from his carefully curated list of the 100 most lovable novels in the English language each episode. And I, his wife, author Stacey Margaret Jones, interrogate him and decide if I agree. And if you're watching on YouTube, we are joined today by our special guest, Cavalier King Charles Spaniel Sylvia, who is not the most cooperative special guest, but that's indicative of the way she lives her life. So, I need another hint, but I'd like hint 1A. Have I read this book?
No.
Oh.
I am pretty certain you have not.
I always feel absolved when I haven't read it. Okay, so give me hint number 2.
Hint number 2, a 14th birthday.
I got nothing.
All right. Hint number 3, and this one could conceivably help you.
Okay.
It ain't a Christmas Carol.
A Christmas Story? Wait, I have read... Oh, that's not a novel. That's a memoir. Okay, no, I don't know.
It is Go Tell It on the Mountain
Oh,
by James Baldwin.
I have not read this novel. I suspect you're about to convince me to do so.
I'm going to do my best.
So I feel it as a personal failing that I have not yet done so. All right, so how long is this book?
It's 240 pages
I thought it was
in
short.
the Viking paperback, which is the one you're most likely to find.
When did it come out?
1953.
Okay, all right. So you were very busy being a toddler.
I was.
Yeah, you didn't read it when it came out, did you?
No.
You waited a couple of years.
I waited at least till I was 5.
All right. Okay, well, who else likes this book? Highlights. Sometimes it's like minutes and minutes and minutes of listers.
A lot of people like this book. It's on the Time magazine's 2005 list of the 100 best English language novels since 1923. It was on the Boston Public Library's list of 100 most influential books of the century. It was on the American Scholars list of the 100 best American novels 1770 to 1985. The College Board listed as one of the 101 great books recommended for college-bound readers. It was 78th on the Reader's Digest Greatest Books of All Time, 41st on the Entertainment Weekly's Top 100 Novels, 39th on Modern Library's list of the best English language books of the 20th century, and 36th on Radcliffe's 100 Best Novels.
Wow,
So
okay.
it's
Radcliffe.
kind of along with Native Son by Richard Wright and Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. This is one of, you might call the triumvirate of greatest novels by African-American writers between the Harlem Renaissance and what we usually think of as the Civil Rights Movement,
So
beginning in the mid-1950s.
Okay, so, I mean, that would be at the late end of that period.
Yeah.
Because I think of it as, when you said 1953, that to me is mid-mod.
Yeah, it's mid-mod. It's a mid-mod novel.
I spend a little time on the real estate websites. So, all right. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned those other novels because I think of it along with those, I guess, in terms of maybe subject matter and point of view. But I really am ignorant about this book. So I'm excited to talk to you about it because I feel like I'm about to get schooled in a great way.
Well, I'm not sure you're going to get schooled. A lot of people would probably say if you were going to pick a James Baldwin novel that you should pick Another Country, which was published in 1962.
Oh, I thought you meant you should live in another country. I was like, what?
No, you should pick the novel titled Another Country.
Yeah.
That actually is probably more famous than this one, and it's on things like the Penguin list, in addition to other things. But I read Another Country, and have to admit I fell asleep continually while reading it. And I did vow that I would not include books I fell asleep to in my 100 most lovable books in the English language.
I think, again, it's important before we get into why this book is lovable. It is a good thing to remember that this is, all these lists have their criteria, their main criteria, which is, most influential, books you need to have read, or, whatever they're saying, best novels since Time magazine was begun, right? And yours is that it's enjoyable to read.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they're all easy reads, but that there's payoff, right? That what you take out equals or exceeds what you put into reading it.
Yeah.
And
I liked Go Tell It on the Mountain.
Yeah. You just weren't as engaged.
I was not as engaged by Another Country. Baldwin was gay, and Another Country is openly about some gay people. Also, Giovanni's Room, which is the novel that came between Go Tell It on the Mountain and Another Country, is also about a gay relationship. Really, the first time, I think, at least in a well-known commercial novel, that you had a very obvious and not disguised or,
Right. Because we've talked about it, like with Brideshead Revisited.
Yeah,
We're like, okay, what's going on? I mean, it's like in Brideshead Revisited, it's like he's saying, if you know, you know, right?
Yeah.
If you read this novel and you know what's going on, it's because you know what's going on. But I'm not going to say what's going on because then nobody will read this novel. Or or one doesn't. Yeah. So that's really interesting that you're saying that this was a novel you read that you were like, oh, okay, it's right. It's foregrounded.
Yeah. In Go Tell It on the Mountain, it's not quite as foregrounded. But unless you're really just not tuned in, it's fairly obvious that John Grimes, who's the protagonist of the novel, has these feelings toward Elisha, who's sort of the youth minister.
Well, before we get too far, we've just been on quite a break because we did quite a few podcasts ahead because we went to celebrate my mother's 100th birthday.
Yep.
And so we've been on a massive road trip, South Dakota, Minnesota, etc. So
if your mother had been reading one of our books each year of her life, she would have finished them by now.
Well, she's read a lot of books.
That's true.
She is a retired
she may
librarian.
Have read most of them.
She's still an avid reader, so maybe she's read this. But anyway, that's all just my excuse for not being on the ball with the format of the podcast this week. So I'm like, what do I do next? So we need the Down and Dirty Summary Challenge so that you can see if you get the Harps of Glory or the Trombone of Despair, which I guess I earned the Trombone of Despair in my guesses.
Well, I don't know if that's fair since you haven't read it.
Thank you.
But, I may get the Trombone of Despair just for doing this, but I talked about it being kind of in the conversation with Native Son and with Invisible Man. But it differs from them in that it's in a sense broader than and narrower than the concerns of those two books. It's not just about being black in America. It's also about universal concerns like growing up and sexuality and sexual identity and faith and loss and love and loss and the burden of guilt.
Right.
So all of those things are themes in this book. But it's narrower than those other two novels in that it's very concretely about this one person. So then I was going to get to my summary.
So I'll just interrupt. I'll just come in on your preamble.
The preamble to the Down and Dirty Summary.
Yes, and say it's not a Black American writer's job to educate white readers. I mean, the information's all around us if we want it, right?
Yeah.
But one of the best ways that they can do that, if they choose to, is to write intimately about their, cares and concerns, because we all share.
Yeah.
We're all just human, right? Like,
Yeah.
so.
And that's what this book does. And I
It
think
sounds
that's
like
what this
that.
book does really well.
All right. So because I busted in on your summary, I'm going to let you go from here after you did the preamble, and I'll judge you from this point on.
All right. So this focuses on one very specific individual, teenage John Grimes, who's in a very specific family, one in which his abusive stepfather is a Pentecostal preacher and loves his own son, Roy, who's John's unreliable half-brother, but can't bring himself to love John, in a very specific place, Harlem, in the mid-1930s, on a very specific day, John's birthday. And Baldwin doesn't imply that John's experience is the quintessential metaphor for all African Americans everywhere, but readers will extrapolate some general truths from the experiences of this single individual in this single family.
There are things that you can take from it that you may not realize happen to Black people if you are not a Black person.
Yeah.
And ways that you can relate to it if you are.
Yeah.
That this is authentic, right? This
Yeah.
is my experience as well. Interesting. All right, so harpsichord.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't expect that.
I know, but
You're so
I
generous.
handicapped you, so I'm going to give you. I am generous. I'm a benevolent dictator. Okay. So what is lovable about this book?
I found a lot of things lovable about the book. John is such a well-drawn character that you identify with him, even if you're 75 years old and he's a 14-year-old. It's on his 14th birthday that this all takes place, which is the day he's saved, by the way.
Oh, interesting.
So one of the things about the book that's really kind of enjoyable is that it sort of documents the role of the church in the African American life. Let's put it that way.
Right. Where did you say it's set? What?
In Harlem.
Harlem. Oh, okay. So I took a walking tour of Harlem ages ago, and I think it started or ended at one of the churches there that was, pivotal in the civil rights movement, and was definitely a center of the community.
Yeah.
It was really fascinating. So that is interesting to me.
Yeah. And you see it in the novel, you see it in its positive function, which is it's what unifies the community and provides inspiration, but also its negative aspects, which are things like moral judgment and exclusion.
Right, like we'll support you, but there's still some constraint and control around.
If you do what we say.
Well, and it's also interesting that you talk about it as his birthday, because that was one of the things I learned explicitly. I guess maybe I had an understanding, but in my MFA program, I wrote a short story about a stressful day at work. And one of the things my professor said was, you need to think about why this day. Like, it needs to be a day, a meaningful day. And it sounds like there's a lot of things happening on this day that make it kind of story worthy.
Yeah. This is another lovable thing about the novel. In fact, the thing that I particularly like the most about it, which probably most people wouldn't.
Jay's list of lovable novels that may not be for you.
It's the structure of the novel. It's three significant parts. The first part is John and what happens on his birthday before the family goes to church, as they do on Saturday nights, apparently, to get ready for the going on Sunday morning.
Right. The pre-meeting before the big meeting.
Yeah, and a lot of things happen in that first part. There's a central part where each of the three adult characters in John's life, his stepfather, Gabriel, his mother, Elizabeth, and his aunt, who's Gabriel's sister, Florence. There's time for prayer. And in this center section is entitled The Prayers of the Saints. and you get inside each one of their heads. Here's everything they're thinking about during this time.
Wow, I'd love to know that.
And then
What a great idea.
the third and last part of the novel is called The Threshing Floor, which is John's experience in the church as he is overcome by the Spirit for the first time in his life. And the threshing floor is an allusion to Matthew 3, verse 12. His winnowing fork is in his hand, and he will clear the threshing floor and will gather his wheat into the granary, but the chaff he will burn with unquenchable fire. So this threshing floor, as John is kind of gyrating on the floor of the church in this kind of passionate, mystical experience, is going to tell whether he's the chaff or the grain that's gathered in. But one of the things that I like the most about this structure is that the whole novel is like a classical play because it all happens in a single day.
Right.
And it has, you might think, a 3-act structure, but it's also kind of a 5-act structure because you've got John in the beginning, then Florence, then Gabriel, then Elizabeth in their prayers, then John at the end.
So there isn't one point of view.
Not really. I mean, you're kind of focused on John in the first and last parts, but then in the 3 middle parts, you're focused on the internal feelings of the 3 adults. So it's kind of a 5-act. It's sort of like a classical Elizabethan play with the 5-act structure. Right. But what makes it more of a kind of classical tragedy in the Greek sense is that there's a family curse.
Oh, I see.
And you see the family curse in the stepfather.
Right.
And it involves sexuality and violence and seems to be passed down from father to son in this family.
In the stepfather's family?
Yeah, which is also John's family.
No, I mean the stepfather's family of origin.
Yeah, because, I mean, he is getting things from his ancestors.
And then he's bringing it to his family.
He's bringing it to his family.
Right.
And, you see this curse in John's younger brother, half-brother, Roy, who has no interest in the church. And that's a real heartache for his father. But Roy goes out on this day, and he gets in a fight, apparently with a white gang, he and some of his friends. And he ends up with a knife wound near his eye that's bleeding as he comes home. And the father is blaming the mother because she let him go. And she's
That's not toxic at all.
What was I supposed to do? I mean,
yeah.
And then he just smacks the mother around.
Yeah.
And Roy gets up, even bleeding, and says, he hit my mother again, I'll kill you. So you sort of see this curse of violence and that goes through the family. And John is sort of facing this as he's trying to please his stepfather by becoming a preacher. Like the stepfather is actually a preacher, but he's not the pastor of this church that they go to. He's a deacon in the church. But anyway, John at least wants to go through this experience where he feels the Spirit moving him and he feels like he's been saved, and he thinks that's going to get him in good with his stepfather, which it never will.
Right,
because he actually doesn't care a bit about him.
Right.
So there's a curse, as there is in the Greek tragedy. There's the unities of time and place, and there's this feeling that there's something tragic going on. At the end, though, you really don't feel too disappointed. I don't want to give any spoilers, but
please don't, because I do want to read it, and I won't if you tell me the end. I'll be like, never mind.
There is some uplifting feeling at the end because John does feel that he's been saved, and he talks to Elisha afterwards. Elisha's 17, and he's already preaching. And John really looks up to him.
Well, at that age, you are age aspirational.
Yeah, but it isn't only age aspirational. In the beginning, the first part of the book, John is thinking about Elijah and his muscles and how sort of handsome he is and all of that. So you kind of know that he feels a lot for Elisha.
I'm sorry, can you reorient me? How does he know Elisha?
Elisha is sort of the youth minister of the church.
Oh, okay.
And he teaches the Sunday school class for the intermediate children, which include John and Roy, whenever Roy goes to church, which he hardly ever does, which makes the stepfather really angry. Even though John does everything he wants, he doesn't care about John.
Well, bullies don't value people who give them what they want without making them, inflict power. And authority on them.
And John does resent that. John's heart was hardened against the Lord, it says in the first section. His father was God's minister, the ambassador of the King of Heaven, and John could not bow down before the throne of grace without first kneeling to his father. So his father's like a stumbling block between him and the grace that he wants. In some ways, Elisha's kind of a young father figure for him because he doesn't have a father figure that actually cares about him. And he talks to him at the end and says, Elisha, he said, no matter what happens to me, where I go, what folks say about me, no matter what anybody says, you remember, please remember, I was saved. I was there. So at the end of the novel, he has this kind of breakthrough, or he has had this breakthrough and wants to share it with the boy that he has a crush on, that he looks up to as a kind of really older brother figure, I guess.
Yeah.
The middle section gives us an awful lot of stuff that goes back. The way that Baldwin gets out of the kind of trap, I guess, of writing in the classical unities is in the minds of the three adults during the prayers of the saints. They're all thinking back on what's happened to them and how they got to this point.
Right.
And you learn a lot of interesting things. Florence, who's the sister, comes to the church that night for the first time in years. And in fact, John's really surprised that she comes.
So it's not just his day, it's also a meaningful day for her. In that respect, that she's returning to church after a long time. Right.
Yeah. But the problem with her prayer is, as Baldwin says, yet in Florence's heart tonight, hatred and bitterness weighed like granite. Pride refused to abdicate from the throne it had held so long. Neither love nor humility had led her to the altar, but only fear. As you read her thoughts, basically, you realize that she resents her brother from when he was a child. He was her mother's favorite child. Her brother is Gabriel, the stepfather, because even from childhood, he was drinking and gambling and just doing every destructive thing that he could, and yet her mother still loved him the best.
You know what I say about this?
Yeah.
Every family has a Messiah among the children, and if you don't know who the Messiah is, it's you. And I know who it is in my family. It's not me. It sounds like Gabriel is the Messiah.
He was, for his mother, he was the Messiah.
And the thing about it is, you can't lobby for it or make yourself into it. And from a sibling's point of view, sometimes you might not understand it at all, but you know it to be true. Especially when you know you aren't.
Yeah. So she reveals her resentment going back to childhood, and it led her to leave home. They lived in the South. All three of the adults are part of the Great Migration.
Yeah.
they've all come from the South.
You really need to read that book. We're talking about The Warmth of Other Suns, and it reads like an epic novel because of the way that she has reported these historical people who left the South during the Great Migration.
Yeah.
So
she left the South, got on a train for New York. When she got to New York, she eventually married a good man who left her for somebody else.
Yeah.
And then he was killed in France in World War I. And she lost him twice.
Right.
And she also remembers her good friend Deborah, who was Gabriel's first wife, and was a sort of angel, by the way.
Well, these are all such, I mean, not all of the names are biblical, but there's a lot of biblical names that I'm assuming are purposeful on the part of the author, because Gabriel, Deborah, John.
Yep. And Elizabeth.
Elisha.
So, anyway, Deborah was a very good friend of hers. And you find out during her prayers / memories that Gabriel had an illegitimate son in Chicago that Deborah knew about, but never revealed to him that she knew about it. But she told Florence about it.
Right, because she's talking to her friend.
Yeah. So this is part of I suppose, the curse.
Well, I also have a kind of a writing question about it, because the structure sounds like, to me, it's to his great credit that these people are remembering things in their own lives and how they're related to each other. And yet, you're not going to have a successful novel unless these sections move the plot forward of this one day.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to me how does he do that? Because if you're talking about she's remembering this and she's feeling these resentments and she's in touch with these feelings, but she's here in church on this day.
Yeah.
Like each person, you start with John and end with John, and the other people are remembering their own perspectives, and yet somehow they move the plot forward in John's day.
Yeah. But also for their own day, because there's there's big stuff that happens for Gabriel too.
Okay.
Anyway, he had this illegitimate son in Chicago, and then his is the middle prayer of the saints,
right?
And he remembers a lot of things that sort of fill in some of the stuff that Florence was praying about,
right? But that goes to what I'm saying in terms of the craft.
Yeah.
Right? Because their own perspectives fill in holes in the plot or the experience for the reader.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating to me.
Yeah. So as you're reading Florence, there are questions you have some of which are answered when you're reading Gabriel's.
Yeah. Sounds fascinating.
And also, Gabriel, this thing about him being a preacher and having sort of found the Lord and all of that makes him seem like he should be a good guy. But
little grasshopper.
Obviously, Florence's memories don't exactly jibe with that. And then when you get into his own mind, they really don't jibe with that. He remembers his conversion, which happened after a night of wild carousing, and he remembers turning preacher, and he remembers Deborah, the friend of Florence,
right,
who becomes his first wife. But he remembers when first kind of taking up with her. She's sort of like a helper to him, but she's not a very attractive woman,
right.
And so he hasn't thought about her much, but he's asked to be part of this big revival that they're having, where they have invited like 12 different preachers that are well known around the area, and they all come to to this revival, and each of them has a night. Gabriel has one kind of in the middle. And while all of the preachers are having lunch one day during the revival, these preachers all start talking about Deborah and make all kinds of sexist, unkind cracks about her because she's not very attractive. And Gabriel speaks up and shames them all.
Oh.
And says, basically, I'm going to marry her. So he does, which is kind of,
surprising.
It's kind of surprising, and also his motives for marrying her are essentially to show up these guys. So it's not exactly
It's
that
up yours.
that he loves her. Yeah.
But it is in defense of her.
Yeah. So he's not completely. Also, one of the reasons that she's shunned and that he hasn't thought about marrying her is that she was raped when she was 16 years old. Mm-hmm. And so the church looks on her as a sort of fallen woman, like it was her own fault.
The patriarchy loves to oppress and then blame those it oppresses, right? Like,
yep.
this is what is happening. And this is a story as old as time.
Yeah.
That feminists, push back against. You violently attack me and it's my fault. Or even if it's not my fault, I have to live with the repercussions.
Yeah.
Because the powerful people are in a position to shed consequences.
Yeah.
And the oppressed people are only there to absorb them.
Yeah. Also, in Gabriel's prayer, he's remembering the illegitimate son that he had.
Right.
He had taken up with this woman, Esther, another biblical name, got her pregnant, and he doesn't want her around because she's going to tell people that he's the father of her illegitimate child, and it's going to mess him up in the church and all of that.
Yeah.
So he abandons her, but to prove he's not such a bad guy, he gives her money to move to Chicago. So
he buys his own freedom from the problem.
Basically. Yeah. He stole the money from Deborah.
Oh my God.
She had a place where she kept some money she was saving. He knew where it was. He took the money, gave it to Esther to send her to Chicago.
So she's absorbing the consequences.
Yeah.
Again.
But Esther basically curses him.
Oh, okay.
When she leaves, she says, I'm going to have my baby, and I'm going to bring him up to be a man. And I ain't going to read to him out of no Bibles. And I ain't going to take him to hear no preaching. If he don't drink nothing but moonshine all his natural days, he'd be a better man than his daddy.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, she's been horrendously ill-used by someone who obviously should know better.
Yeah.
Just because it's not a long novel, I don't want to get too much detail of the, each person's thing. But this is really instructive to me about how, because families are always so complicated, and there's so many things, you can grow up closely with siblings and be in touch with them and not know huge aspects of their perspective or their lives because they choose not to share it, or or you were too young to know about it, or you just weren't paying attention, right? Because we're all so absorbed in our own lives and desires and pain, right?
Yeah.
So you really have given me a good perspective on what it's like, and I'm glad to know that, because I think if I picked it up and shifted from the first perspective and then into that second one, I might be kind of, like, what is this? What's going on?
Yeah.
So I like having that ahead of time so that I understand. I become the implied reader, as we say. What else do you find lovable about the novel?
Well, I want to tell you about Elizabeth.
Okay.
The illegitimate son that Gabriel has with Esther dies young in Chicago, having led a debauched life, very similar to what his father had led before his conversion.
But still better man than his father.
Yeah, still better. That son's name was Royal.
Oh, okay.
He had wanted to name the son Royal, and she did name him Royal. When he dies, Gabriel feels like something very important has gone out of his life. But then Deborah dies ultimately. But Elizabeth also had an unhappy childhood, but she had a lover named Richard. He was a good man. He was an intelligent man. He got mixed up because he was waiting in the subway for a train, and a bunch of other black youths came running through there because they had just robbed and killed a guy. And the cops get there and they arrest him along with the others. Mm-hmm. And nothing he says will convince them that he didn't have anything to do with it. And ultimately, he's beaten up and goes to jail, and he dies before Elizabeth gives birth to John. Okay. And this is part of her prayer, the things she's thinking about. She did not leave him, Richard, because she was afraid of what might happen to him without her. She did not resist him because he needed her. And she did not press about marriage because, upset as he was about everything, she was afraid of having him upset about her too. She thought of herself as his strength in a world of shadows, the indisputable reality to which he could always repair. And again, for all that had come, she could not regret this. She had tried, but she had never been, and was now, not even tonight, truly sorry. Where then was her repentance, and how could God hear her cry? So, I mean, she feels like, because the church had been telling her, that she had sinned in having this illegitimate child. And she's like, I can't ever repent that,
but
because there's nothing I'm sorry about.
Because she loved him and he loved her.
Yeah.
And it was a truly loving relationship, which
and
she knows.
She gets John out of it.
Right. And then she has a relationship that isn't, so she knows, that. But that honestly reminds me of Hester Prynne, who isn't repentant, right? She's like, okay, I mean, I'll take the societal consequences, but I don't feel bad. Yeah. Like I understand why I did what I did, right?
Yeah,
and
that's exactly.
Is that kind of self-possession in terms of, your own moral inventory?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
So when she was in New York, she met Florence, became Florence's friend. And Florence introduced her to her brother, who had just come up from the South. He's just lost Deborah, so he's looking for a new wife.
Yeah.
She has no father for John,
right.
So she decides she'll marry him. And he promises that he will love John like his own son.
That is, from his perspective, that is not a good promise. You want him to love John as John deserves to be loved.
Yeah.
Anyway.
When they have a son, they name him Royal.
Gabriel and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
So there's a second Royal.
There's a second Royal.
He really liked that name.
And he wanted that son, and son
so he's going to try again.
Which this is one of the reasons why he's so frustrated about Royal.
Yeah.
And how he could have been killed by these guys. So it kind of gives you some background about why he's so focused on Royal not ending up the way his other son did. Right.
Royal number one.
Royal number, So Royal number two, he doesn't want to end up like Royal number one. John, of course, that promise that he made, he does not ever live up to that.
No. All right. Well,
this is kind of autobiographical because Baldwin was raised in a very similar kind of family. Father who was a preacher and was abusive, and Baldwin himself, became a preacher when he was saved at the age of 14.
Oh, okay, I see.
Until a few years later, he decided to abandon the church altogether.
Right. For
probably partly because of their stance on homosexuality.
Yeah. Well, who do you think might not like this novel?
It's a really enjoyable novel.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, I guess if you're an evangelical, Pentecostal, particularly black person, you might see it as critical of your religion.
Right. The thing that you feel sustains you is being criticized or diminished.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably true.
But otherwise, I think most people, if you give it a chance, are going to enjoy it.
When did you first read it?
I first read it only when I was starting to read things for this list that I hadn't read before.
So you hadn't read it until your 70s.
I guess I probably was. 70s. I probably was 70 when I.
Okay, I thought you had read it before and then reread it for this.
No.
Oh, interesting, fascinating. All right. Okay, well, where are you going to rank it? What number?
Okay, I'm putting this at number 51.
Okay, so what goes?
It's right after Midnight's Children.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. I love where you put these because a lot of times you can see, kind of threads.
Yeah, there's some things I keep in the same part of my brain.
Yes.
And you'll be interested in this. Number 52 is The Scarlet Letter.
Well, it certainly is evocative of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it has a different oppressed group at the center.
Yeah.
And it deals with the ideas that oppress people within communities and groups, right?
And within churches.
Yeah, I was going to say, and religion is sadly a lot of times
one of those
used
things.
for control.
Yeah.
In a society. And like you talked about, the religion can be sustaining and also diminishing at the same time of people.
Yeah.
Sustaining of a community and then diminishing of individuals. So
yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, that was really I'm glad we talked about that. I'm certainly interested in reading it.
Okay.
All right.
Then it must be time for Chaos Reader.
All right. So we finished All the Light We Cannot See last night. We read that aloud. And I really enjoyed that novel. I thought it was really touching and really interesting way to look at World War II from a very human
People love
perspective.
that book.
Yeah. When it came out, everybody was reading it, and I didn't. And then when you gave it to me, I was like, okay, I'm finally going to read this because everybody else in the world has read this book. And I really enjoyed reading it aloud. I thought that at first it was a little confusing because it starts with all these disconnected vignettes, and I was just like, I don't know what's going on. But I calmed down, and it was fine. So we are moving on now. We haven't even cracked this novel, but this is what we're going to read aloud next. The Sound of the Mountain by Yasunari Kawabata. I apologize if I mispronounced. Because Kawabata is a Nobel Prize winner.
Yep.
So that's one of the reasons that I picked it from the stack you gave me. But also, I think it talked about the predicament of old age. And as we are growing older, I was kind of interested in reading something about that. So I guess I will check in on that and let you know how it's going. But I'm looking forward to this. I haven't read all of the Nobel writers, and that is one that I'm not familiar with, so I'm excited. And I also wanted to take a moment. I don't think we've done this before, but I just wanted to have an in memoriam moment for one of my college literature professors who recently passed. I'm going to tear up a little bit. Dr. David Newquist. I think I took 4 classes from him at Northern State University in Aberdeen, South Dakota. I minored in Newquist, and he was a great professor. He was so knowledgeable, and I think sometimes people complain because he would just talk, for so long, and honestly, I thought it was wonderful because you just stayed with him. He was going somewhere, and there was he had so much insight to share. He was so passionate about literature and what he read. He was so interested in the papers and the things that I wrote as a student and gave me such good feedback. And as a professor, I thought he was very generous because I did ask him to give me an independent study because I was trying to finish this English major in a kind of, escalated time frame. And I asked him to give me an independent study, and, professors don't get paid extra. It's a lot of extra work. He did not even blink. He said right away, yes, he would do it. And then in the end, 3 other people joined that course because they also needed an extra class. So he was basically teaching a full class. I mean, there was 4 of us, but we had a syllabus. We met regularly, and he didn't get paid for it. And he brought the same energy to that class that he brought to all the other courses I took from him. And that was a class where we read Invisible Man, because I think it was folklore in American literature, like folklore motifs in American literature. And so I read that novel in there. I read Willa Cather in there. And then I think I wrote a paper on Potok in there because of the folklore of the golem in the beginning. So I just wanted to say, there's people in your life that really impact the way that you read and the way that you approach the things that you read, and that enrich that experience for you. And he was definitely one of them, and he will be missed.
All right.
So I wanted to shout out.
Okay.
All right. Well, we would like to thank our listeners and our viewers on all the platforms, and to really encourage you just to take a second to heart, like, follow, share, etc. It does really help us. We're just a small independent podcast, and we really love doing it. And anytime we hear from somebody or find out that somebody has discovered the podcast, it just gives us so much joy. So thank you for all you do to help us get the podcast out there. And of course, we thank our podcast producing sensei, Jerry Bruno, who without his help, we would never be able to do it at all. And we thank Sylvia, our Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, for
behaving herself.
today. And if you are offended by her snoring, I am sorry, not sorry. All right.
All right, then.
So thank you, and we'll see you next time between the covers.